Hello! Today I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, not just on video, but just generally really. And I was thinking perhaps I could start doing kind of a series of videos on book reviews of books that I've read. I'm not very good at giving book reviews, which, considering I'm a wordsmith, I can never really put together the words in any sort of coherent manner when it comes to kind of giving my opinion, not just on books, but on films, on, you know, television programme, anything that you can kind of, you want to give a review on. I tend to go, yeah, it was really good, or no, I didn't really like it, but I'm not very kind of, I don't know, I just can never seem to find the words to kind of put across my views on books and things. I want to do this, or hopefully try to do this every now and then once I've read a book, because I think reviews and readership are so important for the author. The author has spent so much time writing this book and editing and doing all those other bits and pieces, and to not hear back from the readership, I just don't think that's very fair. I think, you know, the author has worked hard, the reader has read the book, and then that's their relationship ended. And I think it is so important to give reviews and leave reviews on you know, websites, on Amazon, or you know, wherever you've bought your books from, if it's online, just to leave a review, just to kind of, first of all, let the author know that you've read the book, and just to kind of give your feedback on it, because as authors, we write, we put our stuff out into the world. Unless we consciously ask for feedback, it's very difficult to kind of know if people have enjoyed what you've done, or if there are any improvements to be made. I mean, you know, there's always improvements that could be made. But yeah, so I'm going to try to give some reviews on books that I've read without giving away too much. I'm quite good at kind of just telling everybody the story of things. So I will just try to give as much as I can and give my opinion with it as well. So a book that I finished reading yesterday is this one. Where are we? It's called The Never List, and I think it's Koethi Zan. I think that's how you pronounce it, and I do apologise if I've pronounced it wrong. As some of you probably know, I work in a library, and one of the great things about working in the library is that you're surrounded by books all day. One of the not so great things about working in a library is that you're surrounded by books all day. Whenever I'm doing some tidying or I'm reshelving some books, it's very often that you'll come across something that you've probably, you know, an author you've never heard of, or a subject that you're not normally, you know, interested in. And I find that I'm doing some shelving, and I'll pick up a book and go, oh, that sounds really good, and I'll borrow that, and I find that I end up coming home with piles and piles of books, and I don't have the time to read them. So it is quite frustrating when I'm in the library and yeah, and I'm surrounded by all these books that I really want to read, and I just don't have the time to do it. You know, there are so many other things going on that, you know, it is very difficult. But at the same time, I've now started reading things that I wouldn't normally read. I don't have a specific genre or style or author that I read all the time. I am very much a judge the book by its cover. If the cover jumps out at me, I tend to pick it up and take it home. Which I know isn't always the best way, because some covers are absolutely dreadful and the books inside are brilliant. But yeah, so I don't normally read crime and thriller, and there's no real reason for it. It's just never been something that I've been drawn to. And a few weeks ago, a customer bought a book back that was a crime book, and just as I was kind of handling it and putting it on the shelf, I just flicked it over and had a look at the blurb on the back, and I thought, oh my goodness, this sounds really, really good. So I borrowed that, and I really enjoyed it, and I'll probably do a review about that at another time. But that was a crime book, and it was really, really gripping, and I was surprised that I hadn't kind of picked up anything like this before. So the book that I'm going to review today was a recommendation from a colleague. She'd read this book, and it's from the crime, or it's from the thriller section. I'll show you on the side there. It's one of our thriller books, and yeah, like I say, I don't normally read things like this, but I may now venture into this world of literature, because you can't put it down. You really can't. You really want to know who done it, why did they do it, what's, you know, what's going on. So like I say, a colleague recommended this book to me, and I'm glad she did, because it's very good. And I'll read you the blurb on the back, and then I'll just kind of tell you a little bit about the book. So on the back it says, "Never go out alone after dark. For years, Sarah and Jennifer kept the Never List," which is obviously the title, the Never List. "A list of things to be avoided at all costs. Never get in the car. But one night they broke their own rules with horrifying consequences. Never take risks. Sarah has spent 10 years trying to forget her terrifying ordeal, but it seems the killer has not forgotten her. Never trust anyone." And yeah, so it starts off with Sarah and Jennifer, and they've been friends for years, and they put together a list of things that you should and shouldn't do in order to keep yourself safe. And they're kind of, you know, sensible things like don't get into cars with strangers, don't accept drinks from strangers, you know, just all those things that you consciously do when you're out to keep yourself safe, especially as a woman. You don't want to get into a car with a strange man. I mean, not saying every man is going to, you know, to kidnap you and kill you, but, you know, be sensible, be safe. And they go off to college or university together, and they manage to get halls of residence together. So they're living together, and they carry on with this never list, never do this, never do that. And in order to keep themselves safe, they had arranged for, if any time they did go out, they had the same taxi service who knew them, and they trusted them. And one night after going out, they called this taxi service, got in the taxi, and realised that it wasn't the person that normally picks them up, and something just felt a little bit off. In the back of the taxi there were little pipes, and they kind of realised that, you know, they were about to get drugged, and the kind of like the plastic, I don't know, plexiglass, whatever, between the driver and the passengers was different, and they tried to get out of the doors and they couldn't because the doors had been locked. And the story it's about these two girls. They're in this taxi, they obviously get drugged, some gas comes through the pipes, and they wake up in a cellar. Well, one of them, Sarah, wakes up in the cellar of a house, and she's naked and she's chained to a wall, and she doesn't know where Jennifer is, and she can see that in this cellar, in this basement, are two other girls, or two other young women who are in the same position as her, and they have, you know, just a mattress, and they're chained by the ankle by thick heavy chains to the wall. And it's one of those awful things where you feel so much for her, because like, you don't know how you would react in this situation. And I know bad things happen in the world, but it's rare considering how many people there are. You know, it doesn't happen to everybody. And these three young women are in this basement, and Sarah doesn't know where her friend Jennifer is, because she's not with them, she's not chained up. And she later finds out that Sarah finds out that Jennifer is in kind of like a coffin type box, and she's just stuck in there, and she can't come out, they can't get her out, and it's just this awful sense of desperation. Are they ever going to escape? The two other women that were in there before Sarah and Jennifer arrived had been there for ages, and it's that we've been so safe up until now. We've made sure that we followed this never list, that we never put ourselves in situations where something bad could happen, and yet it still happened. It still occurred. And just the thought, I mean, I'm not a particularly safe person, not that I get into cars with strangers, but I'm not very good at kind of thinking ahead, or, you know, kind of worrying too much about what is going to happen. And I just don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do in this situation. Without giving the story away, it starts off with finding out that Jennifer has escaped. No, not Jennifer, sorry. Sarah has escaped with the other two girls, and she doesn't know where Jennifer is, her friend Jennifer. The guy that kidnapped them killed Jennifer. Sarah knows this, but she just wants to know where the body is. She wants to be able to kind of put the ordeal to rest, and she wants to find the body. But once all three women had escaped, they separated. They didn't obviously want to see each other. They didn't want the memories of being stuck in this basement. And so they've kind of moved to different parts of the country. This is set in America, by the way. It's an American story. I think I'd probably be a little bit more scared if it was set in England. I did read a book similar to this that was set in England that I will do a review on as well, because it was brilliant. And it mentions places that I have been to at, you know, places in London that I've been to at stupid o'clock in the morning. So yeah, that's a bit more terrifying when something's set in your own country and set in areas that you have been to and that you frequent. So when it's set in America, you've got that little bit of distance. But obviously if you are in America and reading the book, then there is that little bit of worry for you. But don't be worried, it's a story. Anyway, so yeah, so all three women have separated, and the man that kidnapped them is in prison. But he's up for release, and Sarah, obviously, she's locked herself away. She doesn't leave her apartment. She lives on the top floor of an apartment building that has like a doorman at the front who knows her. He knows not to let anybody in who she hasn't already you know, given permission. She doesn't like to answer the phone. She doesn't go out doing her shopping. Her shopping gets delivered. She just doesn't leave. She doesn't want to be, you know, vulnerable. She doesn't want anything bad to happen to her again, which is understandable when you've, you know, gone through the ordeal that she has. But the guy in prison keeps sending letters, and they're kind of cryptic, and they're kind of almost saying that the girls that he's kidnapped will go back to him when he's out. They'll be drawn back to him. And she's still so angry. She's still so frustrated that she doesn't know where the body of her friend is. That in her mind, she needs some answers, and she needs to know what he's trying to say to them through these letters, and why he's playing with them, why he's still toying with them after, you know, leaving them down in the basement. And, you know, he'd give them food some days and then not other days, and he'd take them upstairs and he'd torture them and he'd mess with their heads, and still, while he was in prison and she's free, he's still messing with her, he's still playing games with her, and she just can't cope with it. So she eventually manages to get one of the other women on side. The other one just refuses to. She's got her own life, she's got married, she's got children, and she just wants to forget the whole situation. But Sarah and Tracy, one of the other women, do join forces, although I wouldn't say it was a friendship. I don't think they can have a friendship after what they've been through. But they're both fighting for the same cause, to keep this guy in prison. They don't want him to be released. So she sucks up, you know, every ounce of energy that she can, so that she forces herself out. She goes on a plane, she stays in hotels, all kind of things that are on the never list. Never do this, never do that. She's having to, because her friend is out there somewhere, although dead. She wants to find the body, and she wants to keep this man in prison so that he can't do anything like this again. And it is a very gripping story. It's like I say, it's something that I've not kind of picked up before, and it's just, you know, there's always going to be new characters and hints that they're involved in it, and what do they do, and how, you know, how has all of this come about. And it is a satisfying ending, I will say that. Some books I've read that, you know, they build up to something and the ending just falls flat. I obviously won't say what happens at the end, because it is a book worth reading, but it's just the main part of the story is Sarah's ability to deal with people, interact with people after being, you know, on her own for such a long time, and the fight to find her friend and the fight to find answers, because around every corner, every person that she meets on her journey gives her some new kind of clues and hints as to what has gone on in the past and to why she was kidnapped and to why these other women were kidnapped and why he treated them the way he did. He didn't, obviously he didn't care about them, but he tortured them. It wasn't just a kidnap. It was, physical torture. He'd put them on a rack. He'd abuse them. He'd rape them. He'd do really, really awful things to them. And although us as readers haven't experienced this awful situation, it's so satisfying at the end when it all comes to a head, and all the questions that you kind of were asking throughout the story all are answered. They're all answered. You find out exactly what's going on, who's involved, what was the reason for all of this, and yeah, I think when there is such an awful thing has happened, to kind of feel good about it. And it was great because at the beginning you find out that she'd escaped, so you knew that she was free, and to kind of learn that perhaps she may have died there, the other women may have died there, I think would have just been absolutely awful. But to know that she and the others had overcome this awful situation and had managed to escape does fill you with some sense of joy, knowing that this man who assumed all this power wasn't as powerful as he would have liked to have thought. So yeah, but that's not. I'm not giving away anything because that happens in the first couple of chapters. So you do find out that she is free. But like I say, it is well worth a read. Yeah, can I show you there? So yeah, so The Never List, Koethi Zan. I've not read anything else by this author. I may do, I may not. I don't tend to, once I've read one book, I don't tend to read another book by the same author for a while, because I like to give myself a break. But yeah, well worth the read. And yes, if you do find it in your library, or you buy it in a bookshop or whatever, leave the author a review. Let them know what you thought, and just kind of interact with the author, because they've written this book for you, and just show your appreciation for what they've done. So I need to go and find something else to read. My mum has recommended something to me that I may or may not read. Depends whether or not I find something else in the library that I'd like to read next. And hopefully I'll be able to give more reviews every time I read a book. So yeah, so definitely read this one, and yeah, and I will see you soon. Bye.